On the evening of August 2nd, 2006, at 9:30 p.m., Robert Wone, a promising young attorney, concluded his business commitments in Washington, D.C. and remembered an appointment with a close friend. He called his wife to bid her good night and informed his friend he would arrive in just over an hour. By 10:30 p.m., precisely 60 minutes after his call, Robert had arrived at his friend's house and was enjoying the evening festivities. Everything proceeded as usual until, sometime after the party had concluded and the guests had retired, a strange noise was heard from Robert's room. His friends rushed in to find him critically injured and bleeding profusely. At 11:45 p.m., the police arrived promptly at the scene. The victim was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, and the police began their investigation. Initially, they suspected a typical assault. However, they were unaware that the house contained an extensive collection of apparatus used in BDSM play, hinting at something more sinister. Robert Wone, born in 1974 to a Chinese-American family in Cortland, New York, was raised in a model household. His parents were both successful and well-respected members of society, which likely fueled his upbringing, focused on excellence. He consistently excelled academically, graduated with honors from the College of William and Mary, and went on to attend the University of Pennsylvania Law School. Throughout his education and professional career, Robert was actively involved and passionate, gradually building a strong reputation. Robert's personal life was equally flourishing. In June 2003, he married Catherine Ellen Yu, a smart, ambitious woman from Vernon Hills, Illinois, who had graduated from the University of Illinois with a law degree. Both were quite successful early in their careers, and Robert's future seemed exceptionally promising. Tragically, this bright future was cut short as doctors pronounced him deceased at the hospital before he could receive proper medical attention. The case quickly escalated into a serious murder investigation. The police, at the scene, began interrogating the witnesses present, including 3 of Robert's closest friends who had hosted his 30th birthday party at this very apartment 2 years earlier. Now they witnessed the untimely end of Robert's life at the age of 32. Joe Price, age 35, and a fellow alumnus of the College of William and Mary, where he first met Robert, recounted to the police that Robert had been engaged in an important meeting that ran late into the evening. Consequently, he had decided to stay the night at Joe's apartment, a common practice for him. This night, like others before it, Robert was to sleep in the guest room. They attended the party together, joined by 2 others, Victor Zaborski and Dylan Ward, but the festivities concluded relatively early. Before 11 p.m., everyone decided to retire, and they dispersed to their rooms at leisure. Joe and Victor headed upstairs to the 3rd floor, while Dylan ascended to his 2nd floor room. Joe noted 2 unusual occurrences that night, which raised his suspicions. Before Robert arrived at the apartment, Victor had just returned from a business trip and was resting in his room, leaving only Joe and Dylan to welcome Robert. Later, the trio moved to the kitchen to prepare food for the party. During this time, Joe stepped outside to dispose of trash and check the exterior lights. He was uncertain whether he had forgotten to lock the door upon re-entering. If so, it was possible that the perpetrator had entered the apartment through this inadvertently unlocked door. However, Joe then remembered that it was highly unlikely he had left the door unlocked because he had installed an alarm system on the main door to alert them if it was opened from the outside. The alarm would sound loudly enough to be heard throughout the apartment. Previously, Joe had rented out the basement to a student named Sarah Morgan, who often returned home late, triggering the alarm at night. Strangely, on the night of the murder, although Sarah had informed them she would not be home, the alarm still sounded at midnight, indicating someone else had entered the house. Before Joe and Victor could react to the alarm, they heard Robert scream. They rushed to Robert's room and found him fatally stabbed in bed by an unidentified assailant using a sharp kitchen implement. The attacker fled the scene upon their arrival. Victor Zaborski, a senior marketing director for the Milk Pep educational program under the International Dairy Foods Association based in Washington, D.C., worked closely with many top stars in the entertainment industry. Victor's statement mirrored Joe's, with the addition that after rushing to Robert's room and encountering the fleeing assailant, a trembling Victor made the 911 call at 11:39 p.m. Due to his distress, his voice sounded unusual, causing the emergency operator to mistake him for a woman.
DC Emergency 911 operator 6752. Do you need police, fire, or ambulance?
Immediately. We need an ambulance.
What's wrong, ma'am?
We had someone that was in our house, evidently, and they stabbed somebody.
Okay, somebody's inside the house now?
I don't know. We heard.
Are they bleeding? You see someone bleeding?
Someone is bleeding in our house.
Okay, where's they bleeding from?
I think in the stomach.
In the stomach? Is he cautious? Calm down for me. I'm going to send some help, okay? Female or male?
It's a male. He's a friend of ours. He was spending the night with us.
Dylan Ward, age 36, was the third attendee at the party that night, boasting an equally notable background. The son of a cardiologist serving in the military, Dylan graduated in 1992 with a degree in international relations before moving to Japan to teach English. There, he became acquainted with a family that ran a prestigious restaurant chain, a testament to the owner's culinary prowess. Returning to the U.S., Dylan enrolled at the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York. He later moved to Taiwan to continue his English teaching, during which time he helped a friend introduce a children's book series at Simmons University in Boston, Massachusetts. After completing this project, Dylan relocated to Washington, living and working in Joe's apartment. Speaking to the police, Dylan stated that while Joe and Victor retired to their third-floor room, he went to his second-floor room to read and took a sleeping pill before bed. As he was drifting off, he heard the shower running at the end of the hallway, a nightly routine of Robert's. Dylan was jolted awake by a scream around midnight and ran towards the source of the noise, Robert's room, where he met Joe and Victor also rushing in. All three witnessed the assailant fleeing the scene. The three witnesses, Joe, Victor, and Dylan, claimed that Robert had been attacked by an unexpected intruder, but their account presented significant problems. Firstly, although Robert was indeed stabbed in 3 different places, the crime scene revealed surprisingly little blood on his body or the bedsheet, making the described assault on the bed highly implausible. Secondly, there were no signs of forced entry and nothing of value was taken. Robert's wallet and watch remained untouched on the table. The third issue was the timing of events as described by Joe, Victor, and Dylan, which contradicted neighbors' accounts. While the trio reported hearing Robert scream at midnight, neighbors reported hearing it just after 11 p.m. One neighbor specifically noted hearing the scream while watching the news, which started around 11 p.m. The neighbors heard the scream at 11 p.m., but Robert's friends claimed it was closer to 11:39 p.m. This unusual time discrepancy made the investigators suspect Robert's friends might be involved in the incident. When questioned about this, all three appeared confused and unable to explain. This inconsistency shifted the investigation's focus, making the 3 witnesses the prime suspects. Shortly thereafter, the first responding medics provided further important details to the police. Upon arriving at the scene, they noted the peculiar appearance of Joe, Victor, and Dylan. All 3 were in bathrobes with damp hair and carried a faint scent of soap, as if they had just left the shower. This odd detail became an initial point of interest for the police. The forensic team made several troubling findings during their examination of Robert's body. Firstly, beyond the 3 deep stab wounds considered the direct cause of his death, there were minor, unexplained injuries on his palms, wrists, feet, and ankles. Moreover, the victim had lost approximately 70% of his blood volume, yet astonishingly little blood was found on the bed or his clothing where Robert lay. This discrepancy was highly illogical. Where had all the blood gone? From these facts, investigators deduced that the likely suspects, Joe, Victor, and Dylan, might have washed Robert's body to remove blood traces before returning him to the bed and calling 911. This would also explain the time discrepancies between their statements and the neighbors. The more the probability of Joe, Victor, and Dylan's involvement increased, the more the police realized the challenges they would face against such formidable suspects, not only intelligent, but also with significant social standing and economic power. Joe Price, who attended the same college as Robert and later graduated from the University of Virginia, worked as a clerk for a judge in West Virginia. Victor was a senior marketing director for the Milk Pep educational program, and Dylan, the son of a military doctor, had a commendable record of service and contribution to society. However, during the initial investigation into these 3 individuals, police uncovered a noteworthy detail. Friends and acquaintances revealed that Joe, Victor, and Dylan had long been openly gay. They were not only accomplished, but also pioneers in advocating for gay rights, actively participating in LGBTQ+ organizations, and often appearing in the media to inspire others. Conversely, the police investigation revealed an unusual connection among them, perhaps even aberrant. Specifically, it was discovered that Joe had an account on an adult dating site catering to those interested in BDSM under the username Kulakate, and he had posted looking for a 3rd participant who was none other than Dylan. It was unclear whether Robert was aware of this, but the police deemed it irrelevant and potentially prejudicial to link this detail to the case, fearing societal backlash for perceived bias against gay men, which could complicate the investigation further. Therefore, the police decided to shift their investigative focus initially to identify the mysterious intruder who had caused Robert's horrific death. First, they collected all available security footage from around the neighborhood and meticulously analyzed it, hoping to find a clue. However, they quickly realized that the solution was not ideal, as the number of cameras at that time was limited, leading to significant blind spots and making it difficult to gather evidence. Thus, the police decided to re-examine the initial statements made by Joe, Victor, and Dylan on the day of the incident. All 3 had claimed to see the perpetrator, but only his silhouette. They could not identify his face or even guess who it might be. Their vague descriptions of where the suspect might have escaped further complicated the investigation. Discussing the motive of the mysterious intruder also seemed illogical, because if the intruder had intended to exact revenge, he would logically have targeted the residents, Joe, Victor, and Dylan, not Robert, a mere overnight guest. Was this a murder-robbery case? Unlikely, as nothing was stolen from the room, not even Robert's wallet or his expensive watch, which remained untouched on the table. Ultimately, the police concluded that it was highly probable that the alleged intruder did not exist. This implied that Joe, Victor, and Dylan might have harmed Robert themselves and then conspired to deceive the police with a coordinated alibi due to their close relationship. However, this remained speculation, and the police's task was to provide evidence to charge the actual perpetrator. A meticulous review of the entire crime scene, physical evidence, and autopsy was initiated by the investigative team. The crime scene was thoroughly examined. The house and all surroundings, including floors, walls, staircases, the bathroom, the washing machine, the sink, and drainage pipes, were inspected over 3 weeks. Special chemicals used to detect blood were applied to various items suspected of having blood stains, but no traces were found, suggesting that any evidence might have been meticulously cleaned by the perpetrator. However, a significant finding was made. A towel used by Joe tested positive for faint blood stains. The first key piece of evidence was Robert's phone. It contained a text message sent to his wife at 11:05 p.m., stating he had just showered and was going to bed, and an email timed at 11:07 p.m. to a colleague arranging a lunch the following day. However, both the text and email were undelivered. The prosecutor suggested these were not authored by Robert but by the murderer to mislead the investigation, supporting the theory that the three witnesses had staged these activities during the unaccounted time before they called 911. Unfortunately, the police failed to preserve these digital communications, so these theories remained unverified and based on conjecture. Another critical detail involved the murder weapon, a sharp object that had inflicted 3 deep wounds on Robert. A comparison of the weapon found on the bed with the wounds on Robert indicated that it was not the actual weapon used. Moreover, Joe's fingerprints were found on the handle of this weapon. He claimed he had pulled it from Robert's chest and placed it on the bed. However, the police proved that the weapon Joe claimed to have withdrawn from Robert was not the same as the one that inflicted the wounds, casting his testimony into doubt. The question then was, where was the actual murder weapon? Police continued their investigation and discovered that Dylan's kitchen toolkit, found in his room, was missing several items, and one matched the dimensions of Robert's wounds. Dylan's mother testified that she had given him the toolkit and kept some items, making it normal for pieces to be missing. The autopsy revealed that Robert had died from targeted and precise wounds to his pancreas, heart and right lung, showing no signs of a struggle. Robert also had 6 small, hard-to-detect acupuncture-like punctures on his body. The coroner confirmed that Robert had not consumed alcohol, sedatives or stimulants before his death and speculated that he might have been sexually assaulted, a significant twist in the investigation. However, this conclusion did not directly aid the investigation's progress. The events leading to Robert Wone's death in room 1509 remain shrouded in mystery. Catherine Ellen Yu, Robert's widow, has sought assistance from Chinese-American community organizations to investigate her husband's death further. The case has been passed between 3 different prosecutors. The FBI promised a thorough investigation, but the outcomes did not meet Catherine's expectations. The 3 individuals present in house number 1509 on that fateful night have not been charged. Joe and Victor continued their careers after selling the house and fulfilling police requirements for the investigation and evidence preservation. They purchased a new apartment in Florida where they reside, while Dylan moved to Thailand for work. In 2007, with support from the company where Robert worked, Catherine Yu pursued a re-investigation into her husband's case. In October 2008, 2 startling revelations related to Robert's death were made public, shocking those following the case. The first revelation: with the aid of more advanced medical equipment, investigators discovered that Robert had been injected with a paralytic agent, rendering him unconscious before being electrically stimulated prior to his murder. The second revelation: authorities found a large collection of BDSM paraphernalia in the house where the crime occurred, including items like ropes, blindfolds and batons. The police investigated, but found no marks on Robert's body from the night of the incident that matched these items, leading them to conclude they were unrelated to his death. The investigation dragged on for years, ultimately leading to an impasse, with the police only able to charge Joe, Victor and Dylan with obstructing the investigation due to their tampering with the crime scene and providing false statements. In November 2008, Joe, Dylan, and Victor were formally charged with obstruction of justice and perjury. On May 12, 2010, during the trial, the judge inquired if the prosecutor could suggest a motive for why the defendants might have tampered with evidence and interfered with the investigation. The prosecutor posited that they were the murderers. When pressed for evidence of the murder, none could be provided, and the trial stagnated until the judge issued a final verdict. Personally, I think these three might know who killed Robert Wone. However, the prosecution's charges were insufficient to transform this suspicion into certainty. Hence, the defendants were acquitted. Despite all efforts, the identity of the murderer remains a mystery. The case concluded with Robert's enigmatic departure, and his three friends comfortably started new lives elsewhere. Catherine, the grieving widow who spent years seeking justice for her husband, bitterly remarked, "I believe the defendants' consciences will continue to rot from within with the secrets they hold." What are your thoughts on the Robert Wone case? Please share your comments below this video. Goodbye and see you next time.